And we're unanimous in our support of paying our teachers in Oklahoma. We've got a lot of divisions in this state. We've got divisions in our own industry. And we've got divisions between Republicans and Democrats, between conservatives and liberals. We've got divisions between different associations. But the one division we should not have, we should all come together and pay our teachers now. Let me show you with some charts exactly why we're taking that position as oil and gas guys. Kind of unusual for an oil and gas group to say raise our taxes. Well, number one, we're not saying raise our taxes. The tax rate on oil and gas since 1973 has been 7%. 3 years ago, the industry got a special deal, got a 2% rate on new wells. At the time, I was supportive of that. There's only one thing to say, I was just wrong. It was the wrong thing to do. We should never do anything, ask for anything from our state that's not for our state. If we hadn't done that, we wouldn't be in near the budget crisis we are right now. We can't do anything about the past. So what I'm urging us to do is all come together, not as Democrats and Republicans or liberals or conservatives or big oil or little oil, but as Oklahomans. Let's do what's right for our state. The charts you're looking at here, and I'll show you why it's so critical and why it's a no-brainer to do this. This is our natural gas production. See how it's come up? So we're up in production, okay? This is our oil production, record high oil production volumes. Look at that. And this is what's happened to our gross production tax or severance tax. Record high volumes of product in gas and oil, record low collections of our gross production tax. One more. This one is the dramatic chart. This one tells the entire story. Oklahoma's last in a lot of things. We are an oil and gas state. We're the largest industry in this state. There is no way we should be last in taxation. Last. Texas is 2.5 times more than we are. We've got room as oil and gas producers in this state, both small companies and large companies, royalty owners and interest owners. We've got room to go back to that traditional rate of 7% that 86% of the producers pay anyway, to pay our teachers. And that's what we're here today about. We're not here talking about any of our issues. We're not oil and gas guys. In fact, today my name is Earl Cobb. Today I'm Earl Cobb. I'm a teacher from Muskogee. And all of you here are standing up for a teacher. We ask our teachers not to come. I'm sure some would have, but they're dedicated. They need to stay in our classrooms. And that's what we're doing. We're standing up for them. I tried to think back about a teacher that I could use as an example that had an impact on my life, and I went through 30 teachers driving up here today. They all did. I couldn't pick a single one. They all had some influence on my life. And if you're like me, outside of your parents, who's more influential in your life than the teachers you've had? Those people ought to be the best paid people in society. They shouldn't be at the bottom of the ladder like they are. So I'm here today working with others, hoping we can work together to get this problem solved. Oklahoma's got a lot of problems. I mean, these guys in the legislature are struggling with the problems they've got. But the one problem we ought to solve is we ought to get rid of this special 2% rate and pay our teachers. We've got State Representative Leslie Osborne with us. Oh, you're fine.
So as the House Appropriations Chair, which is not an easy job this year, I'd like to tell you real quickly how we got here. I'd like to tell you real quickly how we got to where we are. So 7 or 8 years ago when I came in, we were appropriating about $8 billion, but we were complacent because we were getting federal stimulus dollars that were propping up the economy. And what we did then was right after that, oil jumps up to $100 a barrel. So we with a false sense of security, cut the gross protection rate from 7 to 2. And then the next year we came back and said, let's cut income taxes. Let's do that last trigger, but we set it a year out. Resultantly, in the year that came out, oil plummets from 100 to 20, puts us in one of the worst industrial crises in our state. What that did was so structurally unbalance the amount of dollars that we have to appropriate that we are not providing the level of core services anymore that our citizens expect. If we do nothing this year to fix our recurring revenue problem, we are going to release 2,600 prisoners early. We're going to close half of our rural hospitals. We're going to close at least half of our regional colleges, and we will never get a teacher pay raise. We are like somebody that has a used car, and they wake up one day and they realize they've traded that used car 6 times, and they owe $70,000 on a 1960 Chevy, and they're never getting out. So here's what we have to do. We have to come together with our partners, like this wonderful group of energy partners that has come together with us and said, we set the rate too low. We have to look forward to bring in new recurring dollars. And there is nothing more important to fund besides those core services than our future. And our future is our children, and our children are educated by who's in the classroom. We will never continue to recruit the best and the brightest if we don't pay better for a starting wage. We will never retain the teachers we want in the classroom. The good teachers, the ones who work at very low wages, we will never keep them in the classroom at that low wage. So I am 100% in support of Representative Michael Rogers' plan. $1,000 this year, $2,000 next year, $3,000 the next year. Continue to pay teachers health insurance benefits. We must do more. We have become complacent in this state with being 49 in everything. And we look around and we say, thank God for Mississippi. Well, guess what? We are Mississippi. I do not want to take the path of Sam Brown back in Kansas. I want us to invest in our future. We have to invest in our children, and you do that through the classroom and the classroom teacher. So if any of you have a representative or a senator you know in this building, we are rolling revenue measures out this week, next week, and the next week. To the minority party, I need you to tell them, I understand party politics, but don't lock up. Don't lock up to tank the state thinking that you'll get more Democrats elected. Take off your D badge and your R badge. And to the Republicans who never want to vote for a tax increase, you've got to tell them if we make those tough decisions, we're still going to support you. We understand what you're trying to do is invest in our future. So I'm asking all of you to get out there and meet with your rep and senator, because those votes are happening in the next few days, in the next few weeks, that will determine where our state goes. And I'd like to thank the energy producers for being here again, and thank you for the educators. Let's keep this ball rolling. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Representative Pat Monby, who is, I know, he voted against the 2% in the first place, so he had the foresight to see what was going to happen.
Thank you very much. I want to take just a minute and kind of review what's happened. First of all, I'll get this up a little bit. I'm going to, if you don't mind, just take a moment to do this, because I tried to put some thoughts together this morning on where we are at as a state. A couple of decades ago, the Oklahoma legislature made what I believe was a very good decision in regards to horizontal drilling. They gave the oil industry a tax break for what was at the time a very expensive technology that allowed these companies to begin that process. If you look back then, it made complete sense. The legislation dropped the rate for horizontal drilling from 7% to 1% for the first 48 months. There's no doubt that this legislation was intended to be a short-term break, allowing the industry to utilize this new and expensive technology. That's what lobbyists do up here. They come up and work, we just need to get this for a while. Why do I say that? because the measure included a sunset provision allowing the legislature to revisit this issue every few years. I think in the end, if you look at what's happened, most of us would conclude the measure was a complete success. Today, about 95% of all new wells in Oklahoma are horizontally drilled, and the oil industry is pumping more oil out of Oklahoma than ever before. Fast forward to 2014. Many of us in the legislature believed that the right thing to do was let this tax break sunset. I made that comment in the Daily Arborite prior to session, and the first week, here come the oil lobbyists. To me, this measure accomplished exactly what it was intended to do. But due to a strong lobbying effort back in 2014, a quick deal, in my view, was struck. Now fast forward to today. We have a provision in place that drops the rate from 7% to 2% on horizontally drilled wells. And that tax rate is in effect for 3 years. Some of you may not realize that by the time 3 years passes on a horizontally produced well, about 90% of all that oil that drilling rig is producing will be gone. Thus, Oklahoma is receiving 2% tax on 90% of that oil in the ground and 7% on what is left. I ask you, this cannot be right. You know, I believe it's my job and jobs of state legislators to work to determine what's fair to the oil industry, also what's fair to the people of Oklahoma, and balance that. I believe the decision shouldn't be based on lobbying pressures outside of this building. And with that in mind, we've worked to do a comparison, as you've seen on these charts. We put together a lot of work. These are real numbers. We get compared all the time with Texas. Well, folks, take a look at what Texas is doing. Take a look at what Oklahoma is doing. Take a look at what these other states are doing. I believe a few years ago, we missed a great opportunity. Today, we face a crisis. But if we hadn't faced a crisis today, I need to say, we need to do the right thing for Oklahoma, and it's not to keep this at 2% for 3 years. I stand with this group. I believe we need to go back up on the gross production tax. I think we need to do what's right for Oklahoma, and legislators need to stand up and say, this is the right thing to do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pat. You know, one thing about this chart, it's embarrassing to be an oil and gas producer. Look at this chart, frankly. There's no way to say this. I was one of those guys up here 3 years ago supporting that. And the only way I know to say it is we put the britches on Oklahoma. It's time we took them off. It's time we did something about that. Look at this chart. Texas is at 8.3. North Dakota, their effective rate is 8.3. If we raised it to 7, we're still below. We're still below our competitors where they're doing all the horizontal drilling. So where are they going to go to get a better tax rate at 7%? So with that, I'll introduce Senator Frank Simpson, good friend.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for being here today. Just to sort of add to some of the comments that I want to be made, remember back in 2014 when we were supposedly negotiating the gross production tax, we were told that the best deal we could get was the 2% for 3 years, and we just couldn't get a better deal. And my question was, why are we negotiating a deal if we did nothing? If we had taken no action in the legislature whatsoever, it would have gone to 7% without us doing anything. But instead, we gave the deck away. We had all the cards. We had the hand to deal, and we gave it away and let big oil dictate to us exactly what the legislation was going to be. I was one of the few in my caucus that voted against that bill, and I'm very proud that I did, because I think today we're seeing the consequences of that bad vote. If we had just negotiated a reasonable rate, and my figure was 5.5%, that's the average revenue over the life of the well, 5.5%. The oil companies are still going to make a lot of money, and we're going to recognize the revenue off that. We like to use the term that says that once the oil is gone, they're going to dump us like an ugly girlfriend and move on to somebody else. And they will have used us and abused us and taken advantage of us, and we will have nothing to show for it. Because once that well has gotten to the point where they're not going to be able to extract a significant number of oil, they're going to shut it down. They're going to sell it to they're going to sell it to Mike. And Mike's going to make money off of it. And he's going to pay 7% tax on it, but he's still going to make money. I had an oil company official, a high-ranking official in one of the major oil companies in Oklahoma, come to me in my office and close the door. He and I had a good working relationship, and he said, "Frank, don't worry about your vote on this gross production tax legislation. It doesn't make any difference what the rate is. We're not going anywhere. This play is too profitable. We're not going anywhere." But we gave the bank away. At the opening of our legislative session, the governor put a poster up that showed an increase in like 165 service taxes in Oklahoma. I had breakfast with the governor. I reminded her those are not service taxes. Those are taxes on working families in Oklahoma that happen to use those services. So we're talking about raising taxes on working families, but we're sort of hands off when it comes to making the oil companies pay their fair share of revenue in Oklahoma. That's a shame that we're doing that. We should be setting the terms. We should not let the oil companies set the terms for us and expect us to comply with their terms. We have working families in my district that are paying 9% sales tax on the groceries they buy to feed their children. But yet we can't expect big oil to pay their fair share of revenue in Oklahoma to help support our programs and initiatives here within our state. I think we need to renegotiate this deal. We need to take a good, honest look at it, and we need to get where we are in compliance and competitive with other states. If you look at these numbers here that Mike showed you, we are at the bottom of the pile. And what they do, they use these numbers, the blue numbers, which don't reflect the true tax rate on those other states. It makes us look like we're competing with them, but we're not. We need to reap a benefit from a very precious natural resource in our state that is limited, and someday it's going to be gone. And we will look back and say, shame on us for not reaping the profit and the benefit that we should have been reaping all that time to make our state a better state, to enhance our education system, to bring more businesses to Oklahoma so that we can diversify our economy, not be so dependent on oil prices. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for what you do. We appreciate you. I see a lot of familiar faces from my district. And thank you for being here.
Thanks, Frank. Now we have a representative of our industry that's been a great spokesman and probably the most adamant. Well, I do see Ray Potts, so I can't say he's the best supporter of education, but one of the best. Former Mayor of Tulsa, Dewey Garber.
Good morning, everybody. My family has been in the oil and natural gas industry since 1910. It's been very, very good to my family, the state of Oklahoma, and all of our employees. With the 4,000 companies that are licensed to do business in Oklahoma as oil and gas operators. We've been very fortunate. But our state is having a lot of difficulty now. In my opinion, it's our time now to help our state. Because our state is not able to fund in any manner, shape, or form properly the core services that it has the responsibility of providing each and every person that resides in the state of Oklahoma. Whether it's public safety, whether it's corrections, whether it's the entirety of our courthouse, all aspects of education, public education, higher ed, our vote-text system, they are all in jeopardy today. Economic development cannot be prosperous if we do not have an educated workforce. If people come to a mayor, which I was recently, and says, How is your education system? If we answer them honestly, they will be walking out the door with all of their investment money, their future plans, etc. I saw it day after day after day. We have an opportunity to finally get parity, to get the gross production tax that I've been paying since 1973 for 44 years at the rate of 7%, being 3,500 oil and gas operators in this state. When the deal was cut to change it to 1% and 2%, the purpose was, as explained earlier, to encourage horizontal drilling. Well, now's the time for us to wave the flag, say hooray, success, thank you very much to the Oklahoma taxpayers for funding that. Now it's our turn to do the right thing, have the gross production tax be parity where everybody pays the same rate, and we can move ahead. There are many ideas that are being floated on how to pay for the needs of our core services. But in my opinion, they will all not really take effect for several years from now at best, if they are passed. By this one idea of making parity of an existing tax, we will see the effect immediately. This year, immediately, not have to wait 3 or 4 years to suddenly see the entirety of our educational system gone. We can't afford to wait. We absolutely cannot. So I'm very proud to say 7%. I'm representing a lady who's a teacher from Putnam High School, Emily Clark. I'm working for Emily Clark today. I hope you all will join me and everybody else in this industry and say 7% or else. And this is our time today. This is our message. Thank you very much, Michael.
I'm probably leaving the part that I should have led with for last, and that is that, in my memory anyway, this is the first time that we've had a oil and gas group work together hand in hand with an education group to come to the Capitol and ask for a common goal. And so I want to thank the Association of Professional Oklahoma Educators and Ginger Tenney and her staff for the fine work. I'll tell you, it was easy. There was no problem, and everything went smooth. And at this time, Ginger, are you prepared to talk?
Good morning, and thank you all for being here. First, I would like to take this moment to sincerely thank the Oklahoma Energy Producers Alliance, Mr. Cantrell, for reaching out to us, professional Oklahoma educators, and working with us to solve the crisis we are currently facing in education. Right now, all over the state of Oklahoma, teachers are worried about their jobs. They want to stay here in Oklahoma. They want to stay in teaching. They're committed to their students. You may notice that there aren't many teachers here in attendance today, but that's not because they're indifferent or against the solution. We specifically asked them to stay in their classrooms during the very important work of educating our children. That's why you'll see many of us wearing stickers representing teachers by name and the district who support this idea. These are real teachers who ask us to use their names. Real teachers who are relying on us to adequately compensate them for the hard work they're doing in our state's classrooms right now. The salary for our Oklahoma teachers is amongst the lowest in the nation. It's interesting that it correlates with the lowest tax rate as well. And we have been here for several years. The enrollment in our local colleges and universities for professional education degrees is dropping. Many of our young and passionate teachers are being forced to change careers or chase their dream of teaching to another state just so they can make enough money to support their families. We must not stay on this path. After I graduated from college, which was many years ago, I was given my first teaching job in Empire, a rural school outside of Duncan. It was my dream, and I was excited excited and thankful for the opportunity. I was excited to teach and make a difference in the community I grew up in. But even then, all those years ago, I had to work a second job so I could pay my bills. Today, we have many teachers who are just like I was, young, energetic, and ready to make a difference in their home communities. But the financial burden is too great. The compensation offered by Oklahoma schools is just not competitive. Career teachers know the feeling of waiting on a pay increase that never arrives. And our young teachers know in this history, we are literally forcing teachers out. Today I'm asking the oil and gas companies to partner with us, the teachers, and our students to invest in our future, the future of Oklahoma. By returning to the historical tax rate of 7% on the production of oil and gas, this increase of revenue would not only raise salaries, but it would also allow for more teachers to be employed, thereby bringing the class sizes down to a reasonable level. And it also would send a much-needed message to our teachers, a much-needed message. We appreciate you, and we want you to stay in Oklahoma classrooms. The oil and gas industry is a tradition and a pillar of our communities. Many of us are directly connected to the oil and gas industry through jobs or relatives. We know their importance and are grateful for their positive involvement in our state. And today we're asking them to contribute to the importance of education, to the importance of our future. Let's keep our teachers in Oklahoma. And we have a surprise guest with us today, the Oklahoma State Teacher of the Year, Mr. John Hazel, and he's just going to say a couple of comments.
Just briefly, as the Oklahoma Teacher of the Year this year, I would like to say on behalf of all teachers and students in Oklahoma, thank you to the professional Oklahoma educators and the Oklahoma Energy Producers Association for working together in this effort to help bring us some much-needed hope in attracting and retaining teachers and working for our students. It is joint efforts like this one between business and education that will be the soil from which workable solutions will grow. It will be a process, we know, not a quick fix, but it's way past time that we got started. I'm here today because I'm excited to get to be even a small part of this venture that holds promise of leading the way to modeling the types of partnerships that are going to be necessary if we hope to begin making progress in finding ways to attract and to retain teachers. So I would just like to say, good job to the professional Oklahoma educators, to the Oklahoma Energy Producers Association, and to everyone who is involved in this. We applaud you for your willingness to begin the hard work that will help begin to pay teachers a living wage and also will lead to the benefits that will ultimately be good for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks, that was great. I didn't expect that. It's great to hear from the Teacher of the Year. We are oil and gas producers. Why are we different? Why are we supporting this while the other oil and gas associations are adamantly opposed to it? And I think that answer is, with Dewey's talking about 4,000 producers around the state, well, we make up about 90% of it. So we're the people that live in the communities in Oklahoma, all across the state, all the way from Durant to Idabel to Ardmore to Duncan to northeastern Oklahoma, everywhere. We're everywhere in our communities. So I think we're more in touch, and it means more to us. We don't have private schools to send our kids to. We send our kids to public school. I'm a product of the Oklahoma public school system and East Central University. And I wouldn't be what I am today without that good Oklahoma education that I got. I want my grandchildren to have that same education and have those same opportunities. And I don't know how anybody could look at this chart and see that if you raise it back to where it ought to be, it would still be lower than our competitive states for drilling. How can you justify that? The jobs will be the same. They won't leave. They go where the oil is. They can't say in the Daily Oklahoman or whatever publication that they're bragging about 2,000 barrel a day wells. I wish they'd say, yeah, and guess what? We only have to pay 2%. You don't hear that. It's time we fix this. There's a lot of things we don't agree on. A lot of things all of us don't agree on. But we ought to agree on one thing. It is time to pay our teachers. thanks to everybody for being here and taking your time. And before we adjourn, I want to adjourn to go walk the halls and talk to people. I'd like to encourage all of us to not talk about anything but paying our teachers. Let's focus on one thing. If we don't do anything else this year, let's pay our teachers and keep them. And keep the good ones that we've already got from having to get second and third jobs. And keeping the good ones from retiring early because they're fed up. This is a terrible situation. If you want to return Oklahoma to the Dust Bowl days, just keep doing what we're doing to Oklahoma. If Oklahoma was on the stock exchange, I'd short it. It is not in good shape. And this is the one thing we need to do first to fix it.